Ethan had planned the night for weeks, their 10th wedding anniversary. He'd spent the whole day cleaning the house, setting candles on the patio, even stringing up soft amber lights across the fence. His wife, Lily, was on her way home from work, and everything needed to be perfect. He had splurged on a high-end steakhouse delivery, one of those luxurious orders that came in foil trays packed with truffle mashed potatoes, wagyu cuts, and a small bottle of sparkling rose. The delivery driver was due at 7:15 p.m., just as the sun dipped below the rooftops of their HOA-ruled neighborhood, Maple Hollow Estates. The one thing Ethan hadn't planned for was Karen Whitlock, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, who patrolled the streets like a sheriff guarding a gold mine. At exactly 7:16, Ethan received a text, "Your order has been delivered." Confused, he stepped onto the porch. No food in sight. The street was quiet, bathed in the soft orange glow of streetlights. He walked down the driveway, expecting to find the driver circling back. But then he spotted something odd, a familiar white SUV parked near the HOA clubhouse across the street. Karen's SUV. Its hatchback was open, and the distinctive brown delivery bags from Le Jardin Prime were visible inside. Ethan's stomach tightened. He walked closer, staying just far enough not to be noticed, and there she was, Karen herself, standing smugly beside the SUV, tapping on her phone as she inspected the bags. For a brief moment, Ethan thought there must be some misunderstanding. Maybe the driver had left the food at the wrong address, and Karen was just helping. But as he approached, she caught sight of him and snapped, "This delivery was made after 8 p.m., that violates HOA policy. We don't allow late-night traffic disturbing residents." Ethan blinked. "Karen, it's 7:15, he said, checking his watch. She scoffed. "Our community guidelines recommend avoiding deliveries after dusk. You really should read the manual you were given." Then she shut the SUV hatch and strutted off toward her house, the delivery bags still inside. Ethan was too stunned to speak. He stood there in the cooling air, watching her taillights vanish down the street, leaving only the echo of her high-heeled footsteps on the sidewalk. At first, he tried to rationalize it. Maybe she'd drop the food off later. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. But as the minutes dragged on, his hope turned into frustration. He called the delivery service, and the driver confirmed the drop-off. "Yeah, a woman said she was you, said you were busy setting up your patio." That's when it hit him. Karen had lied. Ethan walked to the HOA clubhouse, where a trash bin overflowed with paper cups and napkins from some board gathering earlier that evening. And there, near the corner, were the empty containers from his order, the Le Jardin Prime logo unmistakable, glinting faintly under the streetlight. The scent of truffle butter still lingered in the air. His $500 dinner, devoured by the woman who fined him last year for having non-regulation patio lights. He took out his phone and opened the neighborhood's shared security app. Every home in Maple Hollow was equipped with at least one Ring camera, HOA rules, of course. He scanned the timeline for any footage, hoping to find a clue. Within minutes, one of his neighbors, a kind older man named Ray, sent him a message, "You might want to check this out." The video clip showed Karen walking briskly across the street, stopping at Ethan's porch, picking up the delivery bags, and waving dismissively at the driver as if she owned the place. Then she loaded them into her SUV and left. No hesitation. No second thoughts. Just pure entitlement. Ethan felt a mix of anger and disbelief, not just at her theft, but at her arrogance. He'd seen Karen bend HOA rules before, but never like this. That night, he sat with Lily in the dim light of their living room, the untouched table outside still waiting for the meal that never came. She listened quietly as he explained what had happened, her face tightening in disbelief. "She stole our anniversary dinner?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded, clenching his fists. "Yeah. And she thinks she can get away with it because she's HOA president." Lily sighed. "Then let's show her she can't." Ethan didn't reply right away, but his jaw set with quiet resolve. He turned off the patio lights and took one last look at the dark street, the same street where Karen's SUV sat parked every night, her porch lit like a stage. He didn't know it yet, but that stolen meal would ignite a chain of events that would end not in another HOA fine, but in a police report marked grand larceny. The next Saturday morning dawned with the brittle brightness that only early autumn could bring. Crisp air, fallen leaves rattling down Maple Hollow's clean sidewalks, and the faint sound of lawnmowers in the distance. Ethan woke early, still simmering from the night of the theft. The video clip Ray had given him replayed in his mind over and over, the way Karen had smiled smugly at the delivery driver, the casual swing of her arm as she carried away the bags like she owned them. He'd forwarded the footage to his phone, to his laptop, and even to a backup drive. He didn't plan on confronting her in the street. No, he was going to do it the right way, right there in front of the people who thought she could do no wrong, the HOA board. By 10 a.m., the community clubhouse was already half full. The usual crowd had gathered, retired couples in pastel sweaters, newcomers with coffee cups, and the same handful of nosy neighbors who attended every meeting just to feel involved. Karen stood at the front of the room in her usual power stance, back straight, hands clasped behind her, a navy blue blazer pressed to perfection. Her pearls caught the light as she smiled and greeted people by name, like a queen addressing her court. Ethan took a seat near the back, his laptop tucked under his arm. He wasn't here to make a scene, he was here to make a point. "Good morning, everyone," Karen began, her voice smooth and rehearsed. "Before we begin new business, I'd like to discuss an incident from earlier this week, an issue regarding late-night deliveries that disrupted the peace of our community." A few heads turned, curious. Ethan's pulse quickened. "I witnessed a suspicious vehicle parked outside one of our homes after dark," she continued. "For safety reasons, I intervened. The driver was confused, so I took possession of the items until ownership could be confirmed." She folded her hands, pausing dramatically. "It's unfortunate how careless some residents can be." That was enough for Ethan. He rose from his seat, voice steady but sharp. "You mean my delivery," he said. The room shifted, chairs creaked, whispers rippled across the audience. Karen's smile faltered. "Mr. Hale," she said, using his last name like she was a teacher correcting a student, "this isn't the time." "Oh, I think it is," Ethan interrupted. "You stole my anniversary dinner, Karen. And then you threw it in the clubhouse trash." The room froze. Karen's face tightened, her practiced composure beginning to crack. "That's an outrageous accusation," she said coolly. "The HOA doesn't involve itself in petty personal disputes." Ethan opened his laptop and turned it toward the projector, where the security footage glowed on the wall for all to see. Gasps filled the room. There was Karen, clear as day, walking up to Ethan's porch, lifting the food bags, and loading them into her SUV. She wasn't protecting the neighborhood. She was committing theft. The room went dead silent except for the faint hum of the projector fan. Karen's voice trembled slightly when she spoke again. This is being taken out of context. I was safeguarding property until I could confirm it wasn't a scam delivery." "Then why'd you eat it?" Ethan shot back. "Why'd you dump the empty containers in the clubhouse trash?" A few board members exchanged uneasy looks. One of them, a balding man named Greg, cleared his throat. "Karen, that does look bad," he admitted. "Maybe we should hear him out." Karen's veneer cracked further. "This is harassment," she snapped. "I've dedicated years to keeping this neighborhood safe. And this ingrate, turns on me over a few takeout boxes." Ethan took a slow breath, his anger controlled but visible. "It's not about the food," he said quietly. "It's about power. You think because you wear that title, you can do whatever you want. But this time, you crossed the line." He packed up his laptop and turned toward the door. "I've already filed a report with the police," he added before leaving the room. The boardroom erupted in murmurs as he walked out. Behind him, Karen's voice wavered, half pleading, half indignant, but the damage was done. Her authority, once unshakable, was crumbling before everyone's eyes. Outside, the sunlight hit Ethan's face, sharp and clean. He didn't know what the outcome would be yet, but for the first time in months, he felt the weight of her control lifting from the neighborhood. Justice was no longer a fantasy, it was in motion. The following week unfolded like a slow-burning storm. Maple Hollow, once a quiet suburb obsessed with lawn symmetry and mailbox paint shades, had turned into a hive of whispers. Neighbors who used to wave politely at Karen now turned away. The HOA board avoided her calls. The footage from Ethan's presentation spread quietly among residents, not posted online, but passed from phone to phone like a local legend. Ethan didn't want to humiliate her publicly. He just wanted his justice. But sometimes justice has its own momentum. On Tuesday morning, as Ethan worked in his home office, a black and white police cruiser rolled quietly into the cul-de-sac. He watched through the blinds as a detective stepped out, mid-40s, tall, weathered expression, the kind of man who'd seen too many small-town dramas play out just like this one. He knocked on Ethan's door. "Mr. Hale?" he asked, flashing his badge. "Detective Lawson, Maple County Sheriff's Department. Mind if I come in for a minute?" Ethan nodded, ushering him toward the kitchen table. The detective set a thin folder on the table and spoke calmly, his tone equal parts casual and serious. "We received your report regarding stolen property. I've reviewed the footage you provided. Looks pretty clear-cut to me." Ethan leaned forward, unsure how far this would go. "I just want to make sure this doesn't get buried under HOA politics," he said. Lawson cracked a faint smile. "You'd be surprised how often that happens. But this isn't about politics anymore, it's about the value of what was taken." He flipped through the folder. Restaurant invoice, delivery receipt, confirmation of payment. Total comes to $528.47. He looked up. "That makes it grand larceny under state law." The words hung heavy in the air. Ethan blinked. "You mean felony?" The detective nodded. "That's right. Theft over $500 crosses the line. We're talking about criminal charges now." For a moment, Ethan felt conflicted. He'd wanted her held accountable, but jailed? The idea of Karen, polished, controlling, smug Karen, standing before a judge in handcuffs felt almost surreal. "She's the HOA president," Ethan said quietly. "She'll probably try to argue it was part of her duties." Lawson nodded, unfazed. "She can argue whatever she wants. But video evidence doesn't care about titles. And neither does the law." He gathered his papers, then added, "We'll need to speak with her officially. You'll likely be contacted to give a statement in court if it comes to that." Later that afternoon, the detective's cruiser appeared again, this time outside Karen's brickfront colonial. Ethan, sipping coffee by the window, couldn't help but watch. Lawson and a uniformed officer walked up her porch steps. She opened the door, already flustered, her hands fluttering in confusion. Her voice carried across the street. High, sharp, defensive. "This is ridiculous. You can't just accuse me of theft over some takeout. I was protecting my neighborhood." Lawson's calm voice replied, too low to make out, but the tone was unmistakable, procedural, detached. He handed her a notice, a summons for questioning. Karen's expression hardened as she realized this wasn't going away. Within days, the neighborhood grapevine went wild. Some residents defended her, Karen would never steal. She's strict but fair. Others didn't bother hiding their schadenfreude. HOA members whispered in hushed tones about stepping down before they were dragged into it. Ethan kept quiet through it all. He didn't boast, didn't argue online, he just waited. The following Friday, Detective Lawson called to confirm that the district attorney was pursuing formal charges. "We'll handle it from here," he said. "You might want to stay clear of her for now." That night, as dusk settled over Maple Hollow, Ethan walked his dog past the clubhouse. The air smelled faintly of pine and freshly cut grass, and for the first time in a long while, the street felt peaceful. But as he passed Karen's house, he caught a glimpse through the window, her silhouette pacing back and forth, phone pressed to her ear, voice raised in panic. The once unshakable president of the HOA was now a prisoner of her own arrogance. Ethan didn't feel glee, exactly, just a quiet sense of balance returning. She had spent years turning rules into weapons. Now, the law itself had turned on her. He stopped at the corner, looking back at the calm rows of identical houses, each porch light flickering on in sequence like a slow ripple of normalcy. For years, those lights had felt oppressive, reminders of the control Karen imposed over everything, from fence height to flower color. Tonight, though, they just looked peaceful. He exhaled, long and steady, and whispered under his breath, "Guess justice really does come with receipts." The next HOA meeting was supposed to be routine, a discussion about landscaping budgets and mailbox replacements. But by the time the clock struck 6, every chair in the clubhouse was filled. The air buzzed with tension, the kind that made people whisper even when they didn't know what they were whispering about. Karen had called the meeting herself, determined to clear the record after the false accusations that had spread through Maple Hollow like wildfire. Her confidence, though slightly cracked, still clung to her like a mask. She wore her favorite navy suit and pearl earrings, her hair perfectly coiffed, her smile practiced. She looked like she was trying to convince herself she still ran the place. Ethan sat near the back again, arms folded, calm but alert. Lily sat beside him this time. She didn't say much, but her presence was steadying. Around them, neighbors exchanged uneasy glances. No one wanted to be caught on the wrong side of the fallout. The projector screen was already set up at the front, the same one where Ethan had exposed the video days before. Karen, standing at the podium, raised her hands dramatically. "I know there's been confusion," she began, her voice crisp but strained. "Some residents have been misled by doctored footage and exaggerated claims. I'm here to set the record straight." She launched into a rehearsed speech about integrity, community image, and the dangers of false allegations. Her words were clipped, brittle, and overly polished. "Theft," she scoffed. "Over a meal. I've given years to this neighborhood, and this is how I'm repaid? It's absurd." She slammed a manicured hand on the podium for emphasis, and several people jumped. Ethan could feel the collective discomfort in the room. Even her usual allies, Greg and Melanie, the treasurer and secretary, looked uneasy, shifting in their seats. Then, just as Karen inhaled to begin her next sentence, the doors of the clubhouse swung open. The sound of boots echoed against the tile. 2 uniformed officers entered first, followed by Detective Lawson, his expression unreadable. The murmurs stopped. All at once, the room went silent. Even the hum of the ceiling fan seemed to fade. Karen froze mid-sentence, her hand still gripping the podium. "Detective," she said, voice faltering for the first time. "What is the meaning of this?" Lawson stepped forward, his tone measured and official. "Karen Whitlock," he said, reading from a small card, "you are under arrest for grand larceny, in violation of State Penal Code Section 155.35. A ripple of shock coursed through the crowd. Someone gasped. Another whispered, "Oh my God!" Karen's face went white, then red. "This is insane," she shouted. "You can't arrest me. This is harassment. I'm the HOA president." The officers moved in smoothly, one reading her rights while the other gently but firmly turned her around. The metallic click of handcuffs cut through the air. Her voice cracked as she tried to wriggle free. "You're making a mistake. It was just dinner. I was protecting the neighborhood." Lawson didn't respond. He just motioned for the officers to escort her out. As she was led past the rows of stunned residents, her composure crumbled. The once commanding Queen of Maple Hollow looked small, her blazer rumpled, pearls askew, eyes darting wildly for someone, anyone, to come to her defense. But no one did. The neighbors she had fined, lectured, and humiliated over the years simply watched in silence. The heavy doors closed behind her, the muffled echo of her protests fading down the walkway. The meeting room remained frozen for several seconds before Greg, the treasurer, awkwardly cleared his throat. "Well," he muttered, "I guess we should probably reschedule." A nervous laugh escaped someone in the back, and suddenly, the tension broke. Conversations erupted, people whispering, phones lighting up. Ethan didn't move. He just sat there, watching the last flicker of blue and red lights reflect through the clubhouse windows. Lily placed a hand over his, her voice soft. "It's over," she said. "You did what you had to." Outside, the night had settled in. The police cruiser pulled away slowly, its taillights glowing red against the manicured hedges. A small crowd had gathered near the sidewalk, whispering, filming, documenting the fall of their once untouchable leader. Ethan stepped out onto the porch, breathing in the cool air. The scent of freshly cut grass mixed with a faint trace of car exhaust. The same street that had once felt suffocating under Karen's control now felt free. As he walked home with Lily, porch lights flicked on one by one, illuminating the quiet houses of Maple Hollow. Each light felt like a silent nod, an acknowledgement that something had changed. Power, once hoarded and abused, had finally been stripped away. And though he hadn't set out to destroy anyone's life, Ethan couldn't help but feel that balance, real, honest balance, had finally returned. 2 months later, Maple Hollow didn't quite look the same. It wasn't that the houses had changed, They still lined the cul-de-sac in perfect symmetry, lawns still manicured, porches still spotless. What changed was the feeling. The tension that used to hang in the air like humidity had lifted. Conversations that once stopped when Karen approached now carried freely across driveways. Kids rode their bikes again. Neighbors waved longer, smiled wider. For the first time in years, the neighborhood actually felt like one. Karen Whitlock's name had become a ghost story. After her arrest, she spent a weekend in county jail before posting bail. Her trial came swiftly. The footage, the receipts, and her own defensive outbursts sealed her fate. The judge called it a blatant abuse of authority. She pleaded guilty to a reduced charge to avoid prison, but the record stuck: grand larceny, Class D felony. The HOA board quietly voted to remove her from office, and the motion passed unanimously. Within weeks, a moving truck pulled up to her house. The woman who once fined people for trash placement left Maple Hollow in silence, windows drawn, eyes down. No one came to say goodbye. Ethan never gloated. He didn't have to. The neighborhood spoke for him. Letters of apology appeared in his mailbox, some handwritten, some typed, from residents who once backed Karen's every rule. "You did what we were all too afraid to do," one note read. "Thank you for standing up." Even Greg, the treasurer who had once defended her, stopped by to shake Ethan's hand. "We got too used to thinking power meant protection," he said. "You reminded us what accountability looks like." The HOA re-elections came in late spring. For the first time in memory, the clubhouse was packed with residents eager to participate. Ethan didn't plan to run, but his name ended up on the ballot anyway, written in by nearly half the neighborhood. He declined politely when they asked if he'd serve as president. "I don't want power," he said, smiling faintly. "I just want peace." Instead, he helped draft new bylaws that put strict limits on board authority, transparency rules, and a recall clause, a small but symbolic victory. The board approved them unanimously. One evening, as summer approached, Ethan and Lily set the table on their back patio. Fairy lights glowed softly overhead, the same ones Karen once fined them for being non-standard fixtures. The air was warm, fragrant with honeysuckle, and the sky shimmered in streaks of gold and lavender. Lily brought out the meal: steak, potatoes, a chilled bottle of rose, almost identical to the one they never got to eat that night. They clinked glasses. "To us," she said with a smile. "To us," Ethan echoed. As they ate, laughter drifted from neighboring yards, the sound of kids playing, dogs barking, sprinklers misting the air. It was the kind of suburban calm Ethan had once thought impossible under Karen's rule. He leaned back in his chair, the glow of the string lights reflecting in his glass, and for the first time in a long time, he felt settled. He wasn't thinking about revenge anymore, or rules, or HOA meetings. Just peace, quiet, earned peace. Across the street, a "for sale" sign swayed gently in the breeze where Karen's house once loomed like a watchtower. The new owners, a young couple with a toddler, had already painted the door bright blue. It didn't match HOA colors, but no one seemed to mind. Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe that was the real victory. Not that Karen was gone, but that her rules were. He raised his glass again, watching the golden light fade into dusk. "Funny," he murmured. "All that chaos started with one dinner." Lily tilted her head, smiling softly. "Then let's finish it the right way this time." They laughed, and as the night settled in around them, Maple Hollow finally felt whole again, imperfect, human, and free. The porch light above them flickered once, catching the edge of the wind. Somewhere far away, a police radio crackled and went silent. And in that quiet suburban corner, where power had once masqueraded as order, justice had not just been served, it had been shared.